Hello, good evening, or good afternoon, or good morning, wherever you are joining us from. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Paula White. I am the membership manager here at SIAM, and I am so excited to be your host for this webinar on SIAM student chapters. Today, with the help of our wonderful speaker and volunteer for the SIAM membership committee, we will be diving into how to create and maintain a successful SIAM student chapter. We are incredibly fortunate to have Dr. Sylvia Jimenez Bolaños here with us today to lead us through the process of creating a student chapter, the ins and outs of running a chapter, and the potential events that any chapter can host. Before we get started, let me tell you a little bit about our speaker. Sylvia Jimenez Bolaños obtained her PhD in mathematics from Louisiana State University in 2010 as a student of Robert Lipton. She was a visiting assistant professor in the Department of Mathematical Sciences at Worcester Polytechnic Institute. She is currently an associate professor of mathematics at Colgate University. Her current research focuses on the mathematics of material sciences. Her areas of research include analysis of partial differential equations, multi-scale analysis, and nonlinear elasticity. She is part of the SIAM's membership committee and the faculty advisor for the SIAM chapter at Colgate University. Before we get started, if you have any questions, feel free to submit them in the chat or the Q&A. My colleague, Journey Jesse, who is the student membership coordinator here at SIAM, many of you may recognize her name. She and I will be monitoring the chat in the Q&A, so feel free to raise your hand. Sylvia is happy to take your questions, or I am happy to take your questions at any time during the presentation or at the end if you prefer to wait till the end. So feel free to submit them at any time and we'll be happy to answer them. But now I will turn it over to Dr. Jimenez to get us started.
Okay, thank you very much, Paula, and thank you very much, everybody, for attending this webinar. Again, my name is Sylvia Jimenez Bolaños, and I am going to be giving a talk on how to create and what activities you can have with a SIAM student chapter. I am part of the membership committee, and I wanted to talk a little about this topic in particular because as a grad student, I actually benefited enormously from being part of a SIAM student chapter. Between my second and third year, Suzanne Brenner joined the Department of Mathematics at Louisiana State University, and she brought a lot of energy. And one of the things that she did was to encourage the students to create a chapter. And that helped, for example, with leadership opportunities. It also helped with creating a community of students. And also, I was introduced to all the benefits that came with being part of SIAM. So the first thing I'm going to do is talk about what are the benefits in general from being a student member of SIAM. And then I'm going to talk about, in the case of creating a chapter, right? Like, what are the benefits, like the extra benefits of being part of a student chapter, and how to create them, and what activities you can have. So let's see. There it goes. So the first thing is an important thing is students actually get free or discounted memberships to SIAM, and not just to the actual organization, but you also have discounted conference registrations and publications. And one wonderful thing is that actually it can be a free membership if you satisfy one of the three properties. One, for example, you could be part of a SIAM academic member institution. If you're not sure, you can always go to the SIAM website and check if your institution is an academic member institution. If it is, you are able to have a free SIAM membership. It doesn't happen automatically. You have to go, and I'll show you I think Journey will be able to put on the chat, like the website where you can actually become a member, and you will have to mark that you are part of an academic member institution. The next option is if you're studying at an institution that has a SIAM student chapter. So this is wonderful because your institution doesn't have to be a member institution to have a SIAM student chapter. But if you create a chapter, all members of the SIAM student chapter will get a free SIAM membership. And then the other option is if you are nominated by a SIAM not a student member. So if there is a faculty member in your institution that has a SIAM membership, they are allowed to nominate up to 2 students to get a free membership. And just to let you know, because we are in March and the Pi Day was just last week, during this month, actually, they can nominate 3.14, no, joking, up to 3 student members. So to get a free membership. So those are the 3 ways that the students can get a free SIAM membership. So more than that, for example, right now I am a non-student member, so I pay my membership, and also I pay memberships to be part of 2 specialized activity groups. In my case, it's the partial differential equations and the material science activity groups. And as a student, you actually get free memberships in 2 activity groups, apart from your general SIAM free membership. And in there, you can actually network with professionals that are specialized in a particular research area, and they have unique events, awards, and opportunities. So SIAM is a global organization, but you also, as a student, have access to more local activities by participating in SIAM sections. In my case, Colgate University is in upstate New York, and so I am part of the SIAM NNP, which is the SIAM New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania section. So every year we have an annual meeting. So it is a wonderful event where we can actually network with other students, professors, researchers, in my case, in those 3 states. The SIAM sections are not they're not just US based, there are sections around the world. I think that whenever you get a membership, it actually, with the institution, they actually match to which section you belong. So you can actually check that out. As an undergraduate student, you can publish in the SIAM Undergraduate Research Online journal, and where you can share research and experience the journal review process. There is the wonderful SIAM News, where you can actually get career advice. There are student prizes to award excellence. They also have career workshops for example, resume building sessions. One of the things that I benefited from was the Student Travel Awards to attend SIAM conferences. We'll talk about that in a little bit more. And then, of course, like the main part of this webinar, which is also the student chapters. And the idea is to hopefully that you understand why you should get involved or get involved in your chapter if you have one at your institution, and if you don't have one, maybe start one at your school. So in the previous slide, I talked about the SIAM News. It is actually a great resource. It has, for example, cutting edge research that you can read about. And also it has information about SIAM events and career advice, for example. Apart from that, one of the important things that SIAM offers to students is a lot of wonderful programs, which you can actually look at the programs and initiatives tab in the SIAM website. So let me see. Oh, thank you. So for example, you can attend the Jean Golub SIAM Summer School, which is primarily for graduate students. For example, there are like these competitions, like the COMAP competition. There is also the graduate student mathematical modeling camp, and mathematical problems in industry workshops. SIAM has a wonderful visiting lecturer program, which is a list of researchers that volunteer to give talks, and they have the topics that they can present. So you can actually invite speakers from that list, and that is also one of the possible activities that you can have for your chapter. Another great benefit of joining SIAM is that you also don't need to travel to a conference to actually get great information or get great research talks. Actually, SIAM activity groups have their own webinars, some of them. So you can actually participate and network with people through those. And the Career Opportunities Committee has great online and in-person events to talk about to learn about careers in mathematics. And of course, once you're ready to take the next step in your career, you can participate in a SIAM career fair. As I said before, one of the things that I benefited as a grad student was from the travel award funding from SIAM. This is a wonderful thing because usually as a grad student, you have limited funding unless your professor has a big grant and can afford to send you to conferences, right? If you're not in that situation, you might have limited funding. And if you want to go and present or just attend a SIAM conference, you can actually apply for travel award funding from SIAM. It is support that is given to help students gain experience and exposure that comes from attending and presenting at SIAM conferences. These awards provide financial support for current full-time students who are within 6 years of receiving their PhD to help fund their attendance at SIAM conferences. They get, depending on the conference, they get complimentary registration. They get $650 for domestic travel or $800 if it is intercontinental travel. And you have to apply 3 months prior to the start of the conference. And funding of these awards is provided by the SIAM operating funds, donations to the SIAM Travel Fund, royalties generously donated by SIAM book authors, and a grant of the National Science Foundation. So I think Journey will post on the chat information about where to apply, and also the contact is Travel Awards at SIAM if you have questions about how to apply for Travel Award. So in general, I hope that I convinced you that as a student, it is a great idea to join SIAM. As a student, you can take advantage of the programs, the resources, and the opportunities for involvement. As part of the membership committee, I would be happy if you have questions about membership or programs or anything. Please, you're welcome to contact me at any time. Or there is, of course, the email membership@siam.org if you want to join SIAM or learn more about it. Okay, and of course, if you're a student and if you are now part of a student chapter, make sure that you select what student chapter you belong to receive your free membership. So now that we have talked about, in general, why SIAM is an important thing if you're a student, if you want that, let's focus more on why it would be a good idea to form a SIAM student chapter, and also how to do that. So the chapters exist to generate interest in applied mathematics, computational science, and data science through interdisciplinary participation of students and faculty. So again, we have discussed that one of the important things is that if you are a member of a SIAM chapter, you get free membership. Okay, for SIAM, If you're a full-time student at the sponsoring institution, again, the institution doesn't have to be a member institution of SIAM. One of the wonderful benefits, the other wonderful benefits is that you get funding for the chapter. There is an annual funding for local activities and events up to $500. And one of the things that I was recommended when I was a student being part of the chapter of in my case, Louisiana State University, the student chapter, or what I recommended my Colgate students in their chapter is use the fact that you're getting the $500 from SIAM to go to your chair and say, okay, so they are giving me they are giving us $500. Could you help us match that, or at least help us a little bit so that we can have also funding from the department, and we can thank both SIAM and the department during our activities, right? So that is always a good thing to do. So usually that happens at the beginning. You ask for these $500 at the beginning of the academic year, which is mostly at the end of the summer, beginning of the fall. And another thing is that as a SIAM student chapter, you will get worldwide visibility and access to the SIAM's global community. You will have opportunities to network and collaborate with other SIAM student chapters and faculty. I know I'm getting ahead of the talk, but this is actually a very important thing as for an activity to have. For example, I talk about the SIAM sections. You could actually, one of the possible activities would be, okay, if there is an annual meeting of your section, have a workshop, for example, that invites local SIAM chapters or SIAM chapters that belong to that section to come together and maybe have like a little mini workshop or a panel for a career discussion, etc. So that is a nice opportunity that comes from being part of SIAM and being part of a section of SIAM. Then there is funded participation in SIAM annual meeting and conferences. Usually SIAM has funding to invite one of the members or one of the officers to come to the SIAM annual meeting, and they have like a luncheon or a part of the day where they meet with other officers from other SIAM student chapters, and they get to network and talk about the activities that other chapters are having. And that is always a good energy to bring back to your own institution and have more ideas of activities that you can do. Of course, there is also access to resources to support career identification and development. And an important thing is that it can be at a graduate institution, but also an undergraduate institution. For example, I work at Colgate University, which is a primarily undergraduate institution. So all the members of the chapter are undergraduate students. But I also, when I was a grad student, our SIAM chapter was mainly graduate students, but it could also be a SIAM chapter that has a combination of graduate students and undergraduate students. And in that case, it will be good to have events that will target both those populations. So these are important things that SIAM student chapters receive. Then how do you get to create a chapter if that's what you're interested in, if you don't have one in your school? So both faculty and students can form a SIAM student chapter. What they have to do is they have to complete the application that is available on the SIAM's website. So if Journey could post that in the chat, this is the website right here. And so to be considered, potential student chapters have to submit the following 3 things. So the application is composed by a petition that is signed by at least 12 active SIAM members. At least 2 of the people of the people signing this petition have to be faculty members from the sponsoring institution. Hopefully one of them or both could be the faculty advisors of the chapter. And the other 10, I mean, if you have more members in your institution, they can come from your institution, but hopefully the 2 faculty members in your institution, they have like a network of collaborators that can actually sign. Otherwise, you can always contact the membership committee and we will help you find people to help you with that. The next thing, the 2 other things that you need apart from that petition that is signed for 12 from 12 people by 12 people is a letter of intent and a draft rules of procedure. Those are things you don't have to reinvent the wheel. The nice thing is that actually SIAM in the website provides templates for those things. Of course, you will tailor those according to the needs of your institution. So for example, in the rules of procedure, it might be that you want to explicitly say what is the composition of your officers, how often they get elected, how they get elected, how many meetings you want to have during the year that are like meetings of all the members of the chapter. If, for example, you want to have a limit on how much, like a minimum number of events that members have to attend or not attend. So those are things that you can decide, but there are examples of that in the template. And again, it should be tailored to your institution and the needs of your institution. So those are the 3 things that are needed to form a SIAM student chapter. Now, let's suppose that you have gone through this process and now you have a shiny new chapter at your institution. So now the next question is first, first is apply for the funding. Again, it happens during a certain year, time of the year. And then of course, more than applying for the funding is figure out like what are the goals, like what is that you want to do with the chapter? Because if you don't have an idea of why you're creating the chapter and what are people looking forward to with it, like what type of events and what type of activities, like what are the goals, it most likely won't function and it won't keep going. So my recommendation is to think about ahead of time, like what is that you want from your chapter. But here I'm going to mention some activities that you can include, and maybe that can help you think of other things. So activities can include, for example, panel discussions about career opportunities in applied math and computational science, lectures given by guest speakers. In this one, you actually have a lot of resources from, as I have talked about, resources from SIAM itself, because you will have faculty from your department, but at the same time, there is the guest speaker, the lecturer speaker from SIAM, the visiting lecture speaker from SIAM. That would be a good resource to see speakers and look at their topics that they are willing to talk about. There are also the SIAM sections. It might be that you go to a SIAM section annual meeting, and then you know that a professor at a nearby institution gave this amazing talk. And because you were able to go there and network, then you can come back to your chapter and say, oh, let's invite that person because it's nearby. That means we don't need to use a lot of funding to bring that person, right? So things like that. So lectures in general, like given by guest speakers. Undergraduate and graduate competitions, we talked about POMAP, for example. There is an example here from Lausanne that the student chapter actually has like a quant finance challenge, which is like a trading workshop or something like that, or competition that is for graduate students. So these are actually pictures from actual chapter events. Then, for example, social functions, that is also important because you want to create community in your institution. So, for example, at Colgate, we have had movie nights. So we will watch, I don't know, The Man Who Knew Infinity or Pi, the movie, or the imitation game or something like that. And then we will have discussion after that, or just pizza night with the movie or something like that. So those are also good for creating community. It is important that not all events are social functions, right? Because a goal is to also use the resources from SIAM to advance your career, right? So you should also be looking for that. Another activity is, for example, field trips to industrial laboratories or SIAM section meetings. For example, I remember as a grad student in the SIAM chapter, we actually took a field trip to LIGO, the observatory for like gravitational waves, and that was a great experience because you could see data scientists, physicists, mathematicians, and computer scientists and engineers like all working together. It was very, very cool. So these are just a few of activities that the student chapters can have. This, for example, here is a picture of the triangle. So it is like the triangle area graduate math conference. So it is basically like there are like the 3 universities that are in the triangle area that come up and have like students that come and give talks, and it is help organized by the SIAM chapters in those institutions. So these are examples also of things that can be done. So current activities by SIAM chapters. So, for example, there are reading groups. So student members gather on a weekly basis to peer review each other's academic writing. We actually used to have that in my own SIAM chapter. We will have a weekly, not reading group, but a student seminar where if one of us was going to have a job interview or was going to present at a conference, we will present in front of our peers, like like the people from the SIAM chapter, and they will give us feedback on our presentations. It was a very useful and interesting event. Then, for example, you can have internship panels where student members host a panel of graduate students who detail their internship experience in applied mathematics and answer questions from undergraduate math majors. We actually have at Colgate, the student chapter has brought alums that come back and talk about their jobs as data science or data scientists or graduate students and stuff like that, like how they got to where they are right now and explain their paths and give advice. So those are actually good activities also. This is one that we already discussed, the math contest for modeling, where groups of 3 undergraduates work to create, analyze, and write a report on real-world mathematical problems over a weekend. And another current activity by a SIAM chapter is like the Applied Maths Mentorship Program. In that one, at the beginning of each year, SIAM student members are paired with a grad student or a postdoc or a faculty member for mentorship on projects, career advice, tutoring, etc. So here we have other examples. For example, this is the Texas Applied Math and Engineering Symposium. So that is also organized by, I think, the Texas Austin SIAM chapter. This is a picture from the Chinese University of Hong Kong annual workshop that is also organized by the SIAM chapter there. And this is a picture of my own institution, Colgate University. Every year we have one of our events is a poster session where the members of the SIAM chapter present their senior thesis research, and also students that have got members of the chapter that have gone to do REU or summer experiences either at Colgate or beyond Colgate. They can present the posters. So we have basically over desserts, like we go around and people can talk about the research. And we also invite, we don't have a lot of SIAM chapters close by, so we actually invite just people from other nearby institutions to also come and join if they want to participate in the panel. And it has been actually in the poster, it's a poster presentation. It actually has been a very good event. So I think that concludes my presentation. If you have questions or comments, please let me know. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sylvia, for that insightful presentation. We'd like to take this time to open up the floor to our audience. If you have any questions about student chapters or what you've heard today, feel free to type them into the chat. We'll be sure to pass them along to Dr. Jimenez. Please feel free to raise your hands, type them into the chat or the Q&A. There aren't any currently, so while people are perhaps typing up their question or gathering up the courage to ask the question, I did note down a couple of questions, so I'll go ahead and field a couple questions myself. So Sylvia, you gave some great examples of different types of events that student chapters can include. What types of events or activities have you held at your chapter at Colgate University?
So we have a variety of events. Some of them are social and some of them are more focused on career development. So for example, like in the social aspect, we have like a pumpkin painting event. So for Halloween, we actually carve pumpkins, and it has to be math related. So people like carve fractals, or they write carve formulas and stuff like that. So that has actually been a lot of fun. We also have I'm going to talk about social events, and then I'm going to talk about the other type. We also have movie nights, like usually one movie night a year. So like the officers come up with a list of movies, usually math related, and then they send a survey to the members of the chapter, and then they choose one, and then they just watch it one evening and have popcorn and stuff like that. So that is always good. Of the other, like not social, we actually every year have a panel of so the nice thing about Colgate is that it has a very good network of alumni. It's a good alumni network, so we can always count of people that want to come back to Colgate and talk about their paths. And we always have people that have gone to grad school, or people that have gone into the financial sector, or people that have gone to engineering jobs, and data scientists and stuff like that. So they come and they actually, the nice thing is that they also, most of the time, they pay themselves to come. So we don't have to use our own funding. So we always try to save money. So that is always a good thing. So they come and they give a talk, and then it's more not a talk, it's more like a panel, and people have questions. It's like a conversation, and then they give advice and they explain their paths and stuff like that. So that is one of the activities. And then we have the poster session is our big one, where we basically have, because all our senior students have to do a semester of research at least. So then, and usually it's in the fall semester. So in January, upstate New York is very cold. So we actually make it so that we have nice desserts. So people come and it's like cozy. We have the desserts and we go around and talk and look at the posters, and people talk about like either the research they did for their senior thesis, or the prior summer, if they participated in any research experience for undergraduates, or if they did other internships and things like that, they also come and present a poster about that. So those are, yeah. So, and we do have like the nice thing is that in our department, they match the funding from SIAM. And we also have an applied math seminar. So usually we kind of try to make it so it is a joint seminar. Like, so every time that they bring a speaker, we also advertise it as a SIAM, a student chapter event. And that, because it is an event of the chapter, then more people come. So it is even better. So that has been actually very successful. And sometimes we use the fact that the speakers are coming for the day, and then we have a luncheon with the speakers, and then they can talk, also like network with the students. Yeah, so those are
great.
Yeah.
And you bring up a good point too, Sylvia. I love to hear that your department matches what the funding that SIAM provides to the chapter. That's something that we like to make sure that people are aware of. You know, SIAM is only able to provide $500 annually to the chapters, and sometimes we hear, $500, that's not a lot of money, and it's doesn't allow for funding of too many programs, but we don't consider that to be funding for everything, to cover all of the expenses that a chapter should be holding for a year. We do expect that you're looking for funding from other sources beyond just SIAM. You can solicit grants, you can ask, for matching funds from your department, from your university or your institution, and from other sources as well, perhaps sponsorships from for-profit organizations, and get creative with it. Don't just try and conduct your chapter on the $500 SIAM provides.
Yeah. By the way, there are questions in the Q&A.
There are, yeah. So let's go ahead and get to those. And I apologize. Somebody pointed out that the chat is disabled. I guess that's how we set it up. So if you have questions, you can only submit them in the Q&A. We're trying to see if we can enable the chat, but it might not be possible since that's how we set it up. So the first question, should the 10 student members required to form the student chapter be paying members, or can they apply for the free membership at the same time as the chapter application? The other 10 members beyond the 2 faculty members that are required, they don't have to be student members. They can be any members at all at SIAM, and they don't have to be from the institution. And they have to be current members of SIAM. That's the only requirement. They can be regular members, they can be student members, reciprocal members, outreach members, any kind of member. They can be free members, I think. They can be free members. They just have to be a member of SIAM currently anywhere, at that institution or at another institution, at an organization.
Yeah, so I think people didn't understand, because the next question is, do the 12 students to sign the petition have to be prior SIAM members? So the 12 people signing the petition do not have to be students from the institution. So the petition has to be signed by 12 SIAM members that support the creation of the chapter. It doesn't have to be 12 students signing to create a chapter. All is required is that the 2 people from the 12 are faculty members, and they are at the institution, and they are SIAM members. But the other 10 can be also faculty, like members of SIAM that are already at the institution, or they can be from outside the institution. So if at some point you are very interested in creating a chapter and you don't have enough people to sign, please contact the membership committee, and we'll help you with that. Okay. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Yeah. Somebody wants to know if we will share the slides with the participants.
I don't have any issues with that, so Paula, I'm perfectly fine with that. So if anybody,
we can do that. Yeah, no problem. We've also recorded this presentation, and we'll be posting the recording on online, so we can share that as well. The link to it.
Yeah.
Can the chapters located outside of the US also be granted the funding for chapters? Yes, any chapter is granted funding for the chapters. The chapters outside of the US are sent the payment via wire transfer. And then chapters inside the US and I think maybe Canada are sent the funds via check.
Mhm.
How can I
So
know if there is a SIAM chapter in my university? I Googled, but I can't be sure. Um, I'm not sure if the chapter list is on our website, but you can email a membership@siam.org and we'll be happy to tell you.
there should be, I mean, there is a list of the current SIAM memberships on the website somewhere.
Chapters?
Yeah,
Yeah.
of the chapters, yes, of the
Journey,
student.
maybe Journey can post the link to the webpage where you can find the list of the chapters. In your experience, how much work is it to organize those activities over the course of the semester? I'll let you answer that one.
Yeah, so it depends. It depends over the semester, or like usually it is over the whole year. So I mean, it all depends on your funding, right? You get $500 from SIAM. It all depends on the events that you want to do and what you want to do with them. You can have events where you don't spend any money, um, right? But it will require work. So I think it depends if you are the faculty advisor and if you have a good group of students working with you and that are motivated so that you can delegate things. So for example, if you have officers that can organize the events and you can just give feedback, it depends on if you're asking from the point of view of the faculty advisor or of the students that are trying to run the chapter. I would say it requires some work because you need, if you, for example, like our poster presentation, we have to invite ahead of time people to come. We have to figure out where we're gonna do it, make sure that we have the space to put the posters, right? So it's not like you can just say, hey, come next week to Colgate and we'll have a poster presentation. People come with posters and you don't have where to put them. So it all depends on like the type of events that you want to do. I don't know if that's a vague answer, but yeah, it all depends on the events that you and also on how many people are working with you. Yeah. The next question says, what is the minimum number of involved student members needed to have a successful chapter? So I can only talk about like when I was part of a chapter. I am at LSU, or my chapter now at like the one that I'm a faculty advisor for. At LSU, we had a solid 20 people, at least 20 students, but I think it was more than that. Um, and we had 4 or 5 officers. The chapter at Colgate right now has, I would like to say, like 35 to 40 students, undergraduate students. The only problem is, well, it's not a problem, is that you have to remind people that they have to, I mean, they are part of the chapter, but you have to make sure one event would be signing up for SIAM, because just because you're a part of the chapter doesn't automatically mean that you're part of SIAM. You still have to sign up to be a SIAM member. So I have tried to make the students not just be part of the SIAM chapter locally at Colgate, but that they also register themselves as SIAM student members. I don't know what is the minimum number of students that you will need. Do you know, Paula, if there is a minimum that SIAM asks for?
No, there's no minimum. I think it's going to depend on how engaged your students are. You know, I think having a good set of officers is important who are engaged. I think that's the most important thing because they're the ones who are going to run your chapter for you. But yeah, I think there's no set minimum, and every institution, the size is different. So some institutions are small and don't have a large pool of students to pull from. So you know, you can't really say what the size is the number is. You know, it's everybody's different.
Yeah, there is a question about if undergraduate students also get free SIAM memberships, and the answer is yes. Like, for example, Colgate is an undergraduate institution, so our chapter is undergraduate students, and they do get a free SIAM student membership. So it is a
Yeah.
students in general, undergraduate and graduate students.
Yeah, I mean, as Sylvia said in her presentation, any student at an academic institution that's a member of SIAM gets in for free, whether they're graduate or undergraduate. Same with any student at an institution with a SIAM chapter, student chapter can get in for free, and any student that is nominated by a regular member can get in for free, whether they're graduate or undergraduate, that applies in all three of those instances.
Yeah, there is one question here that says, we recently established a chapter at my institution. Great. Last fall, could you please share some effective strategies for recruiting new members and keeping them engaged throughout the year, aside from the regular events organized by the chapter, which are certainly important to develop engaging community? So we have every year two little events. They're not big events, that are basically recruiting. The first one happens at the beginning of the fall, where because it's an undergraduate institution, we basically is mainly directed to freshmen, but we open it to everybody that wants to hear about the SIAM chapter. So what we do is, like, again, we don't want to spend our own money. So our department has like a Bagel Wednesday. So what we do is, like, we say, okay, in the next Bagel Wednesday, the officers of the SIAM chapter and myself, as a faculty advisor, we will be in the lounge where the bagels are, and we will be talking about the chapters. So if you have questions, and we will be talking about the events that we're going to have during the year. So if you have questions or are interested in joining, please come and talk to us. And we know that people are going to show up for bagels anyways. So when they are there, we basically go and talk to them ourselves. So we do that. And then we also use one of our social events, either the movie night or the pumpkin carving, to bring people, because those are easy to bring people for those. So those are like the two times of the year when we actually have recruitment for members. And it has worked in our case. So yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of the chapters do like pizza nights and movie nights and things like that. So those seem to be popular.
Yeah, and for example, for when I was a grad student and we had the SIAM student chapter, and that was for graduate students, so I can talk a little bit about that in the context of being a member of that. What we used to do is, like, we had an orientation for grad students every year for the new grad students. So we will ask the department to have like a little bit, like a 10-minute thing during the orientation for new grad students, to talk about the chapter and ask people if they wanted to join at that time, and invite them, like have a social event very early so that we can get them at that time and like talk about like the wonderful things that they can get as part of the SIAM chapter and part of SIAM. Yep. There is another question. Should the student chapter be from a single institution, or can it cluster members from different local institutions to make a local or regional student chapter? I think it has to be there has to be a sponsoring institution, if I am not wrong.
We very much prefer it to be from a single institution, if at all possible. So we know that some institutions, the departments, applied mathematics departments, can be very small. We encourage you to try your best to form a chapter at your institution on your own if you can. If you're having trouble forming an institution, if you only have like one faculty member who's a SIAM member, because you only have one, your department is that small. then reach out to us. And there are regional chapters, a couple of them that we have allowed, but it's really rare in special cases. And we, like I said, we really prefer you to try and inform it at your institution if you can. But reach out to us if you're struggling. But we do want you to try and form it at your institution if you can.
Yeah. I know that in particular, like small liberal arts colleges, they usually have like one applied mathematician, some of them. So I understand if that can be sometimes a little bit troublesome, but
yeah. If it's that small and you're struggling to find, two faculty advisors who are members or faculty members who to help you get started, we know sometimes that can be an issue.
Yeah. Another thing that maybe I forgot to say is like I have been talking a lot about math, but usually like our department, our student chapter at Colgate is not just math students. We have students from econ and from computer science and from physics. So we don't have an engineering because it's a liberal arts college, but usually any person that falls in the umbrella of applied math.
That's right.
So it might be that the institution, your department might be very small, like the mathematics department, but it might be that there is people in other departments that would also be interested in joining the chapter. So that's another way of getting people to join. Yep.
That's right. So yeah, check your science departments and engineering and good point. Well, I think we are running up to we've been on for 50 some minutes, and there are no more questions in the Q&A, so I think we're close to wrapping up. So thank you so much again, Sylvia, for sharing your expertise today, and a big thank you to everyone who joined us. If you have any more questions or need additional resources, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Our email address, again, if you have questions, membership@siam.org. If you're planning on submitting a application to form a SIAM student chapter, you can send your application to my colleague Journey. Her email address is jjessie@siam.org. And Sylvia, did you want to provide your email address again?
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Yeah. So should I put it on the chat? Or?
Yeah. And then if you have any questions for Sylvia as a expert and faculty advisor at Colgate and member of the SIAM membership committee, she is happy to answer questions as well. sjimenez@colgate.edu. We're all happy to answer questions at any time, so feel free to message us. Once again, thank you for your time today. We hope this webinar has been valuable for you, and we hope to speak with you again soon. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day or your evening. And we hope to hear from you soon and see you at an upcoming event. Thanks again and take care.
Thank you very much. Bye.